The sound of metal crushing against metal still echoes in my nightmares. But that wasn't the worst part of my story. The worst part was what came after. My name is Emily Martinez, and 3 months ago, I thought I had everything figured out. I was 35, living in a beautiful suburban home in Denver with my husband Mark. We'd been married for 8 years. Mark was a successful corporate lawyer, climbing the ladder at one of the city's most prestigious firms. I managed marketing campaigns for a tech startup downtown. We had plans, big plans, a family, a vacation home in Aspen, growing old together. But plans have a funny way of shattering, just like the windshield of my Honda Civic on that rainy Tuesday evening in October. I was driving home from a client meeting, excited to tell Mark about landing our biggest account yet. The rain was coming down hard, the kind that makes your windshield wipers work overtime. I remember singing along to the radio, thinking about how proud Mark would be. That's when I saw the 18-wheeler running the red light. Time slowed down. I could see every raindrop on my windshield. I could feel my hands gripping the steering wheel tighter. I could hear my own voice screaming. Then everything went black. I woke up 3 days later in Denver General Hospital. The first thing I noticed was the beeping. Machines everywhere, tubes connected to my arms. My throat felt raw from the breathing tube they'd removed. The second thing I noticed was Mark sitting in the corner chair, scrolling through his phone, not holding my hand, not looking relieved that I was awake, just scrolling. Mark, oh, you're up. His voice was flat, distant. Mark, the doctors want to talk to you about your injuries. I tried to sit up, but nothing happened. I tried again. Nothing. Panic started creeping up my chest like ice water. Mark, I can't feel my legs. Mark looked uncomfortable, shifting in his chair. Mark, the doctors will explain everything. Dr. Patel entered the room moments later, her kind eyes immediately focused on me. Dr. Patel, Emily, I'm so glad you're awake. You've been through quite an ordeal. She pulled up a chair next to my bed. Dr. Patel, the accident caused severe trauma to your spinal cord. The damage is significant. I felt the room spinning. Dr. Patel, we're going to do everything we can to help you adapt, but I need you to understand that you may never walk again. The words hit me like another crash. Never walk again. I looked at Mark, desperate for comfort, for reassurance. He was staring at his phone. Mark, how long will the recovery take? Dr. Patel, physical therapy will be ongoing. Emily will need support, especially in the first few months. Mark, support. His tone made my stomach clench. Mark, what kind of support? Dr. Patel, help with daily activities, emotional support, assistance with mobility equipment. Mark stood up abruptly. Mark, I need some air. He walked out without looking back. Dr. Patel squeezed my hand gently. Dr. Patel, this is overwhelming for everyone. Emily, but you're strong. I can see it in your eyes. I wanted to believe her, but as I stared at the empty chair where my husband had been sitting, I felt anything but strong. Over the next week, Mark's visits became shorter and less frequent. When he did come, he stood by the window, arms crossed, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. I tried to stay positive, cracking jokes about becoming a speed demon in a wheelchair. Mark didn't laugh. Mark, Emily, we need to talk. It was day 8 after the accident. I was finally sitting up, learning to transfer from the bed to a wheelchair. Mark pulled the chair close to my bed, but his body language screamed discomfort. Mark, this isn't what I signed up for. The words cut deeper than any physical pain I'd experienced. What do you mean? Mark, I mean this situation. I can't handle it. He gestured toward my wheelchair like it was something disgusting. Mark, I'm young, Emily. I have a career to think about. I felt tears starting to build behind my eyes. We said in sickness and in health. Mark, that was before this happened. He stood up, pacing to the window. Mark, I've been thinking about this for days. I want a divorce. The machines next to my bed started beeping faster. My heart rate was spiking. You can't be serious. Mark, I'm completely serious. I've already contacted a lawyer. He turned to face me, his expression cold. "Mark, I'll make sure you're taken care of financially, but I can't do this." I stared at him, this man I'd loved for 8 years. This man who used to bring me flowers every Friday. This man who'd promised to love me no matter what. "Get out." "Mark, Emily, get out." I screamed it so loud that nurses came running. Mark grabbed his jacket and walked out without another word. I didn't see him again for 2 weeks. When I was finally discharged from the hospital, my parents drove down from Boulder to help me get settled. "Mom, honey, you're going to stay with us until you figure things out." She was trying so hard to be strong, but I could see the worry lines etched deep around her eyes. "I want to go home, Mom." "Dad, are you sure that's wise? The house has stairs. And Mark..." He trailed off, not wanting to say the obvious. Mark wasn't there to help. "I need to try." The ride home was silent except for the sound of my mom crying softly in the passenger seat. When we pulled into the driveway of the house Mark and I had bought together 3 years ago, I felt a strange mix of hope and dread. Maybe being home would help me heal. Maybe Mark would come to his senses. Dad carried my bags while Mom helped me navigate the wheelchair ramp that had been hastily installed while I was in the hospital. The house felt different. Emptier. I wheeled myself into the living room and immediately noticed what was missing. Mark's golf clubs. His law books. The photo of us from our honeymoon in Italy. He'd been here. He'd taken his things. "Mom, Emily, sweetie, maybe we should..." "I'm fine." But I wasn't fine. I was broken in ways that had nothing to do with my spine. That first night alone was the longest of my life. Every sound made me jump. Every shadow looked threatening. I couldn't reach the light switches. I couldn't open the high cabinets. I couldn't even make myself a simple meal. By midnight, I was sobbing on the kitchen floor next to my wheelchair, surrounded by broken dishes I'd knocked off the counter trying to reach a glass. I called Mark. It went straight to voicemail. I called again. Voicemail. On the 3rd try, he picked up. "Mark, what do you want? Emily." I could hear music in the background, laughter, the clink of glasses. "I need help. I can't do this alone." "Mark, that's not my problem anymore." "Please, Mark, I'm scared." "Mark, you need to figure this out yourself. I'm moving on with my life." The line went dead. I sat there in the dark kitchen, holding my phone, feeling more alone than I'd ever felt in my entire life. The next morning, my sister Lisa knocked on the door. Lisa and I had always had a complicated relationship. She was 3 years younger, but had always acted like the responsible one. Lisa, Mom, told me what happened with Mark. She wheeled me into the living room, her face unreadable. "Lisa, look, Emily, I get that this is hard, but maybe Mark has a point." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Excuse me." "Lisa, think about it from his perspective. He's 37, successful, attractive. Did you really expect him to give up his whole life to be your caregiver?" Each word felt like a slap. "Lisa, maybe you should be grateful he's willing to give you a decent settlement instead of making this messy. Get out." "Lisa, Emily, I'm trying to help you be realistic." "Get out of my house." Lisa gathered her purse, shaking her head. "Lisa, call me when you're ready to be reasonable." After she left, I sat in my empty house, wondering if everyone thought I was just a burden now. Maybe they were right. Maybe I should just accept whatever Mark offered and disappear quietly. But then my phone rang. "Sarah, girl, what the hell is wrong with your sister?" Sarah Chen had been my best friend since college. She was a social media influencer with over 500,000 followers on Instagram. She was also the most loyal person I'd ever known. "Sarah, Lisa just called me, said I should talk some sense into you about Mark." I told her where she could shove her advice. For the first time in weeks, I laughed. "Sarah, I'm coming over. We need to talk." 20 minutes later, Sarah burst through my front door like a hurricane of positive energy. "Sarah, okay. First things first, we're going to make this place work for you." She spent the next 2 hours rearranging furniture, moving things to accessible heights, and installing grabber tools in every room. "Sarah, now tell me everything." I told her about Mark's abandonment, about Lisa's betrayal, about feeling completely alone. Sarah, that bastard. Her usually cheerful demeanor turned fierce. Sarah, and your sister is an idiot, Emily. You are not damaged goods. You are not a burden. You are a survivor. She pulled out her phone. Sarah, have you seen Mark's Instagram lately? I shook my head. She showed me the screen. There was Mark, smiling broadly at some upscale restaurant downtown. His arm was around a blonde woman who looked about 25. The caption read, "New Beginnings." My heart shattered all over again. Sarah, this was posted yesterday, the same day he told you to figure things out yourself. I stared at the photo, fury building in my chest. Who is she? Sarah Jessica Williams. She's a paralegal at his firm. She scrolled through more photos. Mark and Jessica at a wine bar. Mark and Jessica at a Broncos game. Mark and Jessica looking very cozy at what appeared to be a work party. Sarah, Emily. These photos go back 6 weeks. My blood turned to ice. 6 weeks, but the accident was only 3 weeks ago. Sarah, exactly. The pieces clicked into place. Mark had been cheating on me before the accident. My disability wasn't the reason he left. It was just his excuse. Sarah, that son of a bitch was probably looking for a way out, and your accident gave him the perfect cover story. I felt rage building inside me like I'd never experienced before. Sarah, you know what you need to do, right? What? Sarah, you need to tell your story, the real story. She gestured to her phone. Sarah, social media is powerful. Emily, you have a voice. Use it. I shook my head. I can't. I'm not ready for people to see me like this. Sarah, like what? Like a strong woman who survived a horrific accident, like someone who deserves better than a cheating husband. She knelt down next to my wheelchair. Sarah, Emily, you've been hiding in this house for 2 weeks, letting Mark control the narrative. He gets to play the victim, the long-suffering husband who just couldn't handle his wife's disability. She was right. I'd been so focused on my own pain that I hadn't thought about how this looked to the outside world. Sarah. Meanwhile, he's out there living his best life with his new girlfriend, probably telling everyone how noble he is for doing right by you in the divorce. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. What would I even say? Sarah, the truth, all of it. That night, I sat at my computer for hours, staring at a blank document. Where do you even start when your entire life has been turned upside down? I began typing. 3 weeks ago, I was in a car accident that left me paralyzed from the waist down. 8 days later, my husband of 8 years asked me for a divorce. He said he couldn't handle my disability. Yesterday, I found out he'd been cheating on me for weeks before the accident even happened. I stopped, my hands shaking. This was really happening. I was really going to expose Mark for who he truly was. I kept writing. For 3 hours, I poured out everything. The accident, Mark's coldness in the hospital, his abandonment, the cheating, Lisa's betrayal. When I was finished, I had a 5-page blog post that laid bare the truth of my situation. I called it Wheels of Strength, My Journey from Victim to Survivor. Sarah came over the next morning to help me set up a blog website. Sarah, this is powerful stuff. Emily, people need to hear this. What if nobody cares? Sarah, trust me, they'll care. I hit publish at 2:47 p.m. on a Thursday afternoon. Then I waited. Within an hour, I had 50 views. By evening, it was 200. Sarah had shared it on all her social media platforms. The comments started pouring in. I'm so sorry this happened to you. Your husband is a monster. You are so brave for sharing this. My ex did something similar when I got sick. You're not alone. Each comment felt like a small healing balm on my wounded soul. By the end of the week, my blog post had been shared over 1,000 times. Local news stations started reaching out for interviews. But Mark wasn't staying quiet. His response came in the form of a Facebook post that made my blood boil. It's unfortunate that private family matters are being aired publicly. While I understand Emily is going through a difficult time, there are always two sides to every story. I hope she can find the help she needs to move forward in a healthy way. The post was carefully crafted to make him look like the reasonable one while subtly suggesting I was unstable. But Sarah had been monitoring the responses. "Sarah, look at this." She showed me the comments on Mark's post. "What kind of man abandons his wife after an accident? Help she needs. She needs a husband who honors his vows. You're disgusting. Mark, Emily deserves better. I hope karma comes for you." The public was seeing right through his manipulation. That weekend, something unexpected happened. Lisa showed up at my door, tears streaming down her face. "Lisa, Emily, I'm so sorry." I wasn't sure I was ready to hear her apology. "Lisa, I went to that new coffee shop downtown yesterday, the one on 16th Street. She wiped her nose with a tissue. "Lisa, Mark was there with his girlfriend. I heard them talking." She sat down on my couch, her voice shaking. "Lisa, he was laughing about your blog post, called you damaged goods who was making a scene for attention." My heart clenched. "Lisa," but the worst part was what the girlfriend said. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. "Lisa," she said, "thank God for that accident. Now you don't have to pretend to love her anymore." I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. "Lisa, Emily, I was so wrong. I thought I was being practical, but I was just being cruel. Mark is a monster, and I should have supported you from the beginning." For the first time in weeks, I hugged my sister. "Lisa, what can I do to help?" Over the next few days, Lisa became my strongest ally. She helped me gather evidence of Mark's infidelity, screenshots of his social media posts with timestamps, photos of him with Jessica that clearly predated my accident, bank statements showing expensive dinners and hotel charges that coincided with his work trips, credit card receipts for jewelry I'd never received. We even found text messages on an old phone he'd forgotten to delete, where he complained about being stuck with me and fantasized about his life with Jessica. The evidence was damning. Sarah suggested we create a video to follow up on my blog post. "Sarah, people connect with video content more than written posts. We need to show them who you really are." I was terrified of being on camera. I'd lost weight since the accident. I had dark circles under my eyes. I was in a wheelchair. But Sarah convinced me that vulnerability was strength. We filmed the video in my living room on a sunny Saturday morning. I wore a simple blue sweater that brought out my eyes. Sarah positioned the camera so you could see both me and my wheelchair, but the focus was on my face. "Hi, I'm Emily Martinez. 2 weeks ago, I shared my story about my husband leaving me after a car accident left me disabled. The response has been overwhelming, and I'm grateful for all the support." I took a deep breath. "But since then, I've learned some things that I think you should know." I held up printed screenshots of Mark's social media posts. "These photos show my husband with another woman. This one was taken 6 weeks ago. This one, 5 weeks ago. My accident happened 3 weeks ago." I let that sink in. Mark didn't leave me because I became disabled. He left me because he'd been planning to leave anyway, and my accident gave him an excuse that would make him look sympathetic instead of like the cheater he actually is. I showed the bank statements. These show charges for expensive dinners and hotel rooms during a period when Mark told me he was working late, while I was planning our anniversary dinner. He was having an affair. My voice was getting stronger with each revelation. This isn't just about infidelity. It's about a man who abandoned his wife in her darkest hour and then tried to make himself look like the victim. I leaned forward in my wheelchair. I'm sharing this not for revenge, but because I refuse to let Mark control the narrative. I refuse to be painted as the unstable ex-wife who couldn't handle her husband's noble decision to move on. I paused, looking directly into the camera. If you're going through something similar, if someone has abandoned you when you needed them most, you are not alone. You are not a burden. You deserve better. Sarah helped me upload the video to YouTube and share it across all social media platforms. Within hours, it had thousands of views. By the next morning, it had gone viral. 1 million views, 2 million, 3 million. The hashtag #ChargedJusticeForEmily was trending nationally. My story was being shared by celebrities, politicians, and millions of ordinary people who were outraged by Mark's behavior. But the real breakthrough came when investigative journalist Maria Santos from Channel 9 News called, "Maria, Emily, I'd like to do a full investigation into your story. Would you be willing to participate?" The segment aired the following week. Maria had interviewed me, Sarah, Lisa, and even some of Mark's former colleagues who confirmed his affair had been going on for months. They'd tracked down the restaurant where Lisa overheard Mark and Jessica laughing about my accident. They'd spoken to other wives of lawyers at Mark's firm who revealed a pattern of infidelity and abandonment among the partners. The story painted a picture of a toxic culture where successful men discarded their wives like used tissues. But the most damaging part was the interview with Dr. Patel. Dr. Patel, in 30 years of medicine, I've seen many relationships struggle with disability, but I've never seen someone abandon their spouse so quickly and callously. Emily needed support, and instead, she was discarded. The segment ended with footage of me at physical therapy, working hard to regain strength and independence. Dr. Patel, Emily is one of the strongest patients I've ever worked with. Any man who can't see that doesn't deserve her. The public response was swift and brutal. Mark's law firm was flooded with negative reviews and angry phone calls. Clients started canceling their contracts. Local businesses refused to serve him. His favorite restaurant banned him. His gym revoked his membership. But the final blow came from an unexpected source. Jessica. 3 days after the news segment aired, she posted a video of her own. Jessica, I need to set the record straight about my relationship with Mark Mitchell. She looked nervous, sitting in what appeared to be her apartment. Jessica. Mark told me he was separated from his wife months before the accident. He said they were getting divorced because she was unstable and had drinking problems. She took a shaky breath. Jessica. He convinced me that Emily was preventing the divorce out of spite. I believed him because I wanted to believe him. She wiped away tears. Jessica. After seeing Emily's story, I realized I was lied to. Mark used Emily's accident as an excuse to finally abandon her, and he used me as his alibi. The video got even more attention than mine had. Jessica revealed text messages where Mark had coached her on what to say if anyone asked about their relationship timeline. She'd kept receipts from their dates, many of which occurred while I was still in the hospital. The evidence was overwhelming. Mark was finished. His law firm fired him immediately. His professional reputation was destroyed. The Colorado Bar Association launched an ethics investigation. But for me, the real victory came when my phone rang on a Tuesday morning. Emily's father, "Emily, honey, you need to turn on the news." I wheeled over to my television and flipped to Channel 9. The headline read, "Former lawyer Mark Mitchell arrested for insurance fraud." The reporter explained that investigators had discovered Mark had increased his life insurance policy on me just weeks before the accident. He'd also taken out a large disability insurance policy without my knowledge. The timeline suggested he'd been planning to profit from my potential death or disability. My hands started shaking. This wasn't just abandonment. This was something much darker. The police investigation revealed that Mark had been researching my daily routes. He knew exactly where I drove every day. He knew about the intersection where my accident occurred. He knew it was a dangerous spot during rainy weather. While they couldn't prove he'd caused the accident, the insurance policies and his behavior afterward painted a disturbing picture. Mark was arrested on fraud charges and held on $1 million bond. The news sent shockwaves through our community. Sarah came over immediately. "Sarah, Emily, this is bigger than we ever imagined." I was still processing the implications. Do you think he wanted me to die?" "Sarah, I don't know, but I know you're safe now, and that's what matters." The legal proceedings moved quickly. Mark pled guilty to insurance fraud in exchange for a reduced sentence. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison and ordered to pay full restitution. But the criminal case was just the beginning. My divorce lawyer, armed with evidence of Mark's fraud and infidelity, negotiated a settlement that gave me everything: the house, the cars, his pension, his savings, everything. Mark's lawyer tried to argue that the settlement was excessive, but the judge disagreed. Judge Mr. Mitchell attempted to profit from his wife's potential death or disability. Any settlement that leaves him with nothing is entirely appropriate. 6 months after my accident, I was finally free. But more importantly, I'd found my voice. My blog, Wheels of Strength, had grown into a platform with hundreds of thousands of followers. I was getting messages from people all over the world who were dealing with disability, abandonment, and betrayal. I started a nonprofit organization to help other women in similar situations. The Emily Martinez Foundation provided legal aid, emotional support, and financial assistance to women whose partners had abandoned them during medical crises. Dr. Patel became one of our board members. Dr. Patel, Emily, what you've created here is remarkable. You're turning your trauma into healing for others. Lisa became my full-time assistant, helping to run the foundation. Lisa, I'll never forgive myself for not supporting you from the beginning, but I promise to spend the rest of my life making it up to you. Sarah used her social media influence to promote our cause, helping us reach even more people who needed our services. But the moment that meant the most to me came during a physical therapy session 8 months after the accident. Dr. Patel, Emily, I have some news. She was smiling in a way I'd never seen before. Dr. Patel, the latest MRI shows some improvement in your spinal cord. It's minimal, but it's there. My heart stopped. What does that mean? Dr. Patel, it means we're going to try some new treatments. I can't promise anything, but there's a chance you might regain some mobility. 2 months later, I took my first steps with the help of a walker. They were shaky, uncertain steps, but they were mine. I posted a video of that moment titled "Standing Tall." The response was overwhelming. Millions of people celebrating my progress. Thousands sharing their own stories of overcoming adversity. But the best part was the message I received from a young woman named Rebecca. Rebecca, Emily, I was in a car accident last week. My boyfriend left me yesterday, said he couldn't handle dating someone in a wheelchair. I found your videos and realized I'm not alone. Thank you for showing me how to be strong. That's when I knew my story had purpose beyond my own healing. I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. And I was helping others do the same. Today, I split my time between running my foundation and working as a motivational speaker. I travel the country sharing my story with audiences who need to hear that betrayal doesn't define you. That disability doesn't diminish you. That sometimes the worst thing that happens to you can become the catalyst for the best thing you ever do. Mark is still in prison. Jessica moved to another state and changed her name. Lisa and I are closer than we've ever been. Sarah is still my best friend and biggest supporter. And I'm still in my wheelchair most days, though I can walk short distances with assistance. But the wheelchair doesn't define me anymore. It's just one part of my story. The part that taught me that strength doesn't come from what you can do with your body. It comes from what you refuse to let break your spirit. My marriage vows said, in sickness and in health. Mark broke those vows, but I kept them. I stayed committed to my own health, my own healing, my own growth. And that commitment saved me. If you're listening to this story because you're going through something similar, I want you to know something. You are not alone. You are not a burden. You are not damaged goods. You are a survivor with a story worth telling. And sometimes, sharing that story can change everything. Not just for you, but for everyone who needs to hear it. Your voice matters. Your truth matters. You matter. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. If my story has touched you, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. Subscribe to hear more stories of triumph over betrayal, of strength in the face of adversity. Because we all have stories worth telling. And together, our voices can change the world. One story at a time.